Okay, we got two notes left. One is composite area, the other is composite perimeter. When we do these questions, we will be doing this question. I'm going to be doing area with this note, perimeter with the next one. Area with this note, perimeter with the next one. Area with this one, perimeter with the next one. Ditto. When you are doing the worksheet that you should do to practice for your end of quadmester assessment, this is the worksheet that you're working on. And it says area, but I would love for you to do perimeter and area. So one, go through and do it for perimeter, one, go through, do it for area, and I will have the solutions online for that. Okay, so you will be well taken care of, and of course you can always ask me any questions you need to. So let's get back to the Smartboard document. There is a warm-up for this one, and the question is, would you rather drive a car at a rate of 40 kilometers per hour, or would you rather drive a car at a rate of 15 meters per second? And I guess it depends on whether you like to drive fast or slow, but 40 kilometers per hour is less than the driving speed on the streets of Peterborough. Usually that's about 50, unless you're in a school zone. And 15 meters per second is something that maybe you can't even imagine what that is. So because it's easier to go from kilometers to meters and hours to seconds, I'm going to be turning 40 kilometers per hour into something less familiar, and I'm going to turn it into meters per second. So that requires some calculations that you may be unfamiliar with. And I'm going to write them down off to the side. So the first one, and I'm going to do it in red, is 40 kilometers. So 40 kilometers, if you know your metric conversions, you'll know that there are 1,000 meters in a kilometer. So that means I can times this by 1,000, and that will give me how many meters I'm driving in an hour. Next calculation I'm going to do is the per hour, and this one might be a little bit simpler for you, and that is per 1 hour. And 1 hour, if we times that by 60, will give us minutes. If we take 60 minutes and times it by 60, we'll get seconds. And the whole reason I did that is because this rate is given in meters per second, so I need meters and seconds to compare it. So what I need to do, and I'm going to do that up here in this space, is I need to take 40,000 meters and I need to divide it by 3,600 seconds. And I can't do that in my head, so I can't even move my calculator. So I'm going to have to do it from here. 40,000 meters divided by 3,600 seconds will be 11.111111. So I'm going to say that is 11.1 meters per second. So the question is, would you rather drive 11.1 meters per second, which is the exact same thing as 40 kilometers per hour, or would you rather drive a car at 15 meters per second? And for me personally, I want to drive, creative pen, happy face, I want to drive a car fast. So out of these two, 15 meters per second is faster than 11.1 meters per second, so that's the one I choose. I don't know if you choose the same. All right, so I need to put my pen back to normal. Otherwise, I'm going to be drawing with a whole bunch of happy faces. And we need to refer to this sheet. So this is the sheet that's in your yellow. It's a yellow sheet in plastic. And I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. Actually, I'm going to put it on big screen. And we are going to be doing composite area. So that means we have to pay attention to this column right here, the area column, and we have to look at this column to figure out what our shape is. So we do not need to worry about perimeter for this note. That will be the next one. So this question, and we're going to be doing area first. Find the area of each compound shape, and this is the first one. So we need to figure out what shapes we see. And I was going to call it a rectangle, but it's actually a square. And I see a triangle. And if I can find those two areas, I should be able to add them together to find out the area of the whole shape. So I need to go back to this and find the area of a square formula, which is the same as a rectangle, so length times width, and deal with that first. Now I'm hoping I have all the measurements, otherwise I'll have to rethink that and then come back to here. So the length of this square is 11.1, and I have to times it by the width of this square, which is also 11.1, otherwise it wouldn't be a square. And I should calculate that. And write it down. So 123.21. 123.21. These are all centimeters, so this is centimeters squared for a two-dimensional shape. The next thing I want to do is I want to deal with the triangle that's sitting right here. And if I check my sheet, the triangle is here, and I would use the top one, which is area equals base times height divided by 2. So I'm going to write that down. And if you can't see it on this sheet, you need to dig out your own sheet and look at it there, because they're all written for you. Now I'm going to blow this up a little bit, because to be able to see that, you need to know that the B and the H for the triangle have to be connected with a little box saying it's a right angle. So I have to find the two measurements that are connected by the little box, and that is this one, which is 11.1, and this one, which is 11.4, but I also have to divide it by 2 before I write down the final number. Calculator time. Clear. 11.1 times 11.4 is equal to 126.54. I'm not going to write that down because I still have to divide it by 2, and I get 63.27. And again, because this picture is in centimeters, it's centimeters squared for area. So now I can figure out my total area, which is 123.21 from the square plus 63.27 from the triangle. 123.21 plus 63.27, and I get 186.48. And in case you left off your centimeters squared here and your centimeters squared here, you do need it here. Now I'm going to put them back in those two spots, and I'm going to put it here. And we're done. That question. So let's take a look at another one. And again, we're going to do all these with perimeter in a second, so I'm going to remind you that this is area. So this time, we need to find the area of this figure and this figure. Now you can see the top figure, if you want to, as a rectangle and two triangles with a triangle underneath, But what I see instead is I see a trapezoid and a triangle underneath it. So let's go looking for our trapezoid formula. Now I have it memorized. You do not need to memorize it. You just need to keep referring to the sheet. And I like this one best. So it's A plus B in a bracket, so top plus bottom in a bracket, times by H, straight up and down with the little box, divided by 2. So I'm going to write that down. A plus B times H divided by 2. I may need to move this triangle. So I'm going to do a little bit of scribbling. So I know my A is 18.1. That's the top. But I don't know how far it is from here to here, because I've only got 4.3 here and 4.3 here. But if I think real hard about this, from here to here along this little dashed line is the same as up above, so this is 18.1. So from this corner to this corner, it will be 18.1 plus 4.3 plus 4.3. So I need to calculate that. And that is 26.7. And that is the number I need to use here. I also need my straight up and down height, and my straight up and down height is this one because it's got the little box, and that's 9.3. That's over 2 because the formula says so. So I am right. I do need to move this business out of the way. Not sure how far. So calculator, I need to do the 18.1 plus 26.7 first. And that's 44.8. I still need to times that by the 9.3 and divide it by the 2. So it's still on my calculator. I'm going to times by 9.3. Don't care what that is. Divide by 2. I care what that is. So 208.32. 208.32. These are all in kilometers, so that's kilometers squared. All right, time for the triangle. And only because I remember it from the last question, triangle is area equals base times height divided by 2. So the base of this is from here to here, if I turned it upside down, and that's the 18.1, times the straight up and down height, which is 9.0, divided by 2 because the formula says so. Calculator. 18.1 times 9.0 equals, don't care about that, I still need to divide it by 2 before I write down an answer. That's 81.45. And again, kilometers squared. And then finally, my total is taking the trapezoid from the top and the triangle from the bottom and adding them together to get the total. That number is still on my calculator, so I'm going to add backwards. Add 208.32 is equal to 289.77. That is terrible. And if you put kilometers squared there and there, you still owe it to me here. So we've got 2 more questions. And these ones are going to be a little bit different because these 2 have circle parts to them. Not whole circles, circle parts. So there's this question. And there's this question. So let's do this one first. What do you see? I see a half circle, and I see a rectangle. And again, we are going to have to add them together to get the final shape. So a half circle's area will be whatever a circle is, but then we're going to have to divide it by 2. So I have to check my formula sheet for a circle. I think it's at the bottom. And it's only got one choice this time, pi r squared. So back to this, pi r squared. And unfortunately, I don't have the r. R is from here to there, or from the center to the other side. So that means to get that measurement, I need to do 20.2 divided by 2, which is 10.1 millimeters. So back over to here, pi 10.1 squared divided by 2. That will be the top part of the picture, the half circle. Now remember the buttons on your calculator. So I've got a pi button, so I'm going to use it instead of 3.14 times 10.1, and I have to square it. So I'm using my x squared button, and then I have to divide it by 2 because it's a half circle, and I get, I'm going to go 2 decimal places, 160.24. 160.24, and this is a millimeters question. Area is squared. Do you remember the formula for a rectangle? Same as the square we did. Length times width. If you forget, there it is. So the length of this rectangle is the 20.2, and the width is 3.1, so I get to multiply them together, and I'll be done except for the adding. 20.2 times 3.1, 62.62. So my total will be 160.24, my half circle, plus my entire rectangle, 62.62. And again, I'm going to have to add backwards, not that it matters. So 62.62 plus 160.24 equals 222.86. 222.86 millimeters squared. And do you see what I did? I forgot that here. And it doesn't matter one bit as long as I have it in my final answer. So I'm going to leave it not sitting here. All right, last question. What do you see this time? I see a rectangle. And before I forget, that's length times width, either with the times sign or not. I see a quarter circle. So that means if I go back and get my circle formula, I will have to divide it by 4 because I only want 1/4 of it. So if I look here again, pi r squared. Now there's something kind of cool about a quarter circle, and that is from here to here is a radius. There's no way I can give you a diameter. And from here to here is a radius. So this is the radius. So I get to put that in there. Don't lose the pi, and certainly don't lose the fact that it's not a whole circle, it's just 1/4 of it. So calculator time. Pi times 12.1 and then square it. Divide it by 4 to get 1/4 of the circle, and it's 114.99. And I'm going to be a super rebel this time, and I'm not going to put any units until the very end. Time for the rectangle. Length 22.2 inches. Width, 11.5 inches. Area, 22.2 times 11.5 is equal to, oh, that is too big. You see what I did? I had an extra 2. 22.2 times 11.5, there it is, equals 255.3. Again, I'm going to be a rebel. No units here, because I know I still have an overall question to answer where I must put the units. So the total area, 114.99 plus 255.3 . Whoa. $370.29. And this is where I am not allowed to be a rebel. Ta-da! All right, so that is that, and your job is to get ready for the mid-quadmester assessment tomorrow. So, sorry, end of quadmester assessment tomorrow. And make sure your notes are in order and practice a few of these by doing this sheet, making sure you actually follow the instructions, which is to take care of area. I am going to try to adjust this and make sure it says perimeter as well so that we can do the last note promise. So I will save this as it is, including the warm-up. The end. See you back with the last note.